everybody, so I wanted to do a video updating you guys on my tattoos, piercings, and I'm gonna throw in a hair update as well. Since I don't really do like updates on my hair because I don't really change my hair a lot, I decided that I was gonna just throw that into this video. So I'll start with that quickly just because it's not gonna take a lot of time. If you haven't noticed, I did get a side cut, so I shaved off the side of my head. It doesn't go all the way back, it ends right about like to where my ear ends, so it's just like a little portion of my head. I wanted to do something different, and I've been thinking about getting either a side cut or an undercut for a while now. The only thing with the undercut for me personally is I don't wear my hair up a lot, so I felt like if I got that done, it just wouldn't show a lot and it would kind of defeat the purpose of having it done, in my opinion. I mean, for some people, if you don't want it to show very often, you may choose to get the undercut instead, just because you might personally only want it to show on the days that you decide to wear your hair up. But it's all personal preference. I decided to get the side done. If you notice too, it's actually not as crazy of a decision to do, because if I turn my hair to the side a little bit, you really can't tell that I have it. So I kind of like that you can kind of decide whether or not you want it shown, but for the most part I do have it showing when I go out, just because my hair naturally parts to this side, so it's a lot easier for me to have it to the side. And to be honest, I just got it, it's still kind of new, so it's something that I want to be shown a lot. So yeah, if you want to know the size, I originally got it trimmed to a number 3, but I felt like it was a little bit too long for me. It kind of looked like really grown out baby hairs, so I decided to trim it even further, and the clipper guard that I used was a number 2. So this is just what that would look like. I don't have any design in it or anything right now, just because I don't have a place around me right now that can actually do what I would want as far as design goes. So right now it's just shaved, but other than that, really nothing major going on with my hair. I did get it trimmed in length, so I don't have an ombre anymore. I don't know if I ever did a video when I had the ombre. I had it for a few months, but I know I kind of fell off of YouTube for a little bit. If you follow me on Instagram, which I will have linked below, and along with all of my other social media sites, you would have seen the ombre, but I did cut that off, which actually was a good portion of my hair. I think I cut off in total, because I got it trimmed twice, probably between like 8 and 10 inches cut off my hair, so it's actually quite a lot. But now I don't have the ombre, so my hair is all one color. I'm debating dyeing it, but I'm not sure whether or not I want to do that, just because as far as like dyeing it goes, I would not want to have to re-dye this section of my hair every single time I trim it, just because this will grow out a lot further and you will notice the growth a lot more as far as if it was dyed. So I'm debating that, just because I would want it all to be one color. I've seen people where they left this their natural hair color and just dyed this portion of their hair, and it looks nice. I just think for me personally, I would have wanted it to all be the same color, but that's neither here nor there. I'm really not sure whether or not I'm gonna do that yet, so we'll see about that. If I do dye it, I might just dye the ends probably red or blue depending on what I'm feeling, but we'll see how that goes. For now, I'm just gonna leave it the way that it is. So other than that, I can move on into my tattoos and piercings. So we'll start with tattoos because they're not as many as my piercings. I have 2 tattoos at the moment. I do have a tattoo appointment on May 19th, so if you guys want to see that and you want like an update on how that went, it's going to be on my feet. I have both sides of my feet are getting done that day, so if you want to see an update on that, I can always do that for you later on once it's done, but that is not until May anyway. So that's a future one, but right now I only have 2. I have one on my arm, and I'll just put in pictures for these 2, just because they're kind of awkward. One's on my ankle, and one is like goes from my wrist all the way down to close to my elbow. So I'm gonna just put in pictures for it. So the one on my arm says "My story isn't over," and it has a semicolon at the end of it. If you're not familiar with the semicolon movement or just what it means in general, I will have a link below so that you guys can go check it out. I'm not gonna get into it too much, just because it's kind of like a really deep meaning, and for me personally, I got it for me. So if you're wondering after you read that, or if you already know what it is, I did get it for me just to kind of sit as like a reminder for me. And because I read it, like it's in the position to where I can personally read it myself, I just like that it looks kind of like my handwriting. So it's kind of just like a personal reminder. If you want to know the font that I got I think it's called Blackjack. I'm not positive, but it looks similar to my handwriting when I write in scripts, so I decided to get that just because I wanted it to look more like a person wrote it versus like it just got spit out of a computer. So that's the font that I chose for this. It is in black ink. I didn't want any color or anything, but yeah, so it's pretty simple. It's just line work. The paint on that actually wasn't that bad. I would say out of 10, I would probably say it was maybe like a 4 out of 10. I noticed the pain more, not towards my wrist or anything, but mainly like when you got towards like the edge of the letters. So for like the T, like towards the top and towards the bottom, I felt like I noticed the pain a little bit more in those areas, but still wasn't that bad. So definitely for me personally, it wasn't a bad area to get done, and it only took I think like 30 minutes total. So it really was quick and it wasn't an issue as far as that. For the one on my ankle, it says the word strength, and I had him just handwrite out the font, so I don't know the font for that one, or just I don't know any font that would be similar, but it just says the word strength, and this is for my mom, but also for me, just kind of as like, again, a little reminder, just something that just I don't want to get into too much detail in tattoo meanings, just because for me, all the tattoos that I want to get all have really like intricate meanings for me personally, and so I'm just gonna say what they are, pain levels and stuff like that. So the pain on that wasn't too bad either. I would say it was probably like a 5 out of 6. As far as like where it is, I know a lot of people say that your ankles are very sensitive just because there's not a lot of like fat or anything there, so it's just kind of on top of bone. So I felt like that one hurt more than my wrist, but I don't think it was that bad either. I did only get line work, so I can't say personally how it feels if you were gonna get like a picture that has shading and line work and all of that put into it. But as far as the pain, it wasn't unbearable, but I would personally say if you want something there that's gonna be bigger, really put your time into it to think about what you want and if you really want it there, because it is a more sensitive area to get tattooed. So just my personal tip. As far as like healing and things for both of them, they're healing up just fine. The one on my ankle is still fairly new, but they healed up fine and I have no issues with it. I do want to get the one on my wrist touched up just a little bit, just because I felt like with healing in that one in certain areas, some of the ink pulled a little bit. It's not so bad to where you would notice it if you were just looking at me. You would really have to know what you were looking for and what area of the tattoo to look at, but I do feel like in some of the areas it pulled just slightly, so I do want to get that touched up, but it's not so bad, so I'm not rushing to get that done just yet. If you want to know where I got them done, I can link the first place that I got done, just because I remember, like, I have to look for it, but I can remember the name of it, so I will put the link to the first place and the tattooer as well if you guys were interested in looking that up. And then, so that's it for my tattoos, and I'll move on to my piercings. So the first one that I have that I'm actually not going to show is my belly button piercing. I used to have both the top part of my belly button and the bottom part pierced. I took out the bottom one just because it was giving me a lot of problems and it wasn't healing right, and I kept hitting it on things and catching it on like my clothing, so I decided to take that one out. But as far as the healing for both of those, they're not horrible. I would say that just because it's on an area of your body that moves around a lot, you would have to just be wary of that in like the first few weeks in healing, just because I feel like the first few weeks are the most crucial. Once it kind of settles a little bit and your body kind of gets used to it a little bit, the healing isn't that bad, but in the first few weeks, I would say try to make sure you're not doing anything that's too strenuous or that moves that area of your body a lot. Also, again, just try to make sure that clothing doesn't catch it. That was the only issue I really had. As far as pain for those, they were like probably, if anything, a 1 out of 10. My top, I did not feel at all. The bottom one I felt a little bit more, but even that was not bad at all. But the top one I didn't feel, so I definitely recommend that if you're somebody who doesn't really like pain but you are scared of getting it done, I would say go for it. It really wasn't a hard piercing to get. Other than that, I have 3 in my nose, so I have 2 sides of my nose pierced, so just the standard nose ring. And then I also have my septum. If you want to know what size I have in my septum right now, I believe it's a 1/4 of an inch circular or like curved horseshoe barbell. So that is actually, I think, one of the smallest that you can get, if not the smallest that you can get for your nose. I wanted a smaller ring just because my features and my nose are kind of small, and because I have so many in that one area, I wanted to kind of just not have it be so drastic and so like cluttered. Originally, if you've seen some of my previous videos, the first one that I got pierced with, I can't remember the size of that one, but the second one that I put in where it was a little bit smaller, that one was a 5/16, which I think is a good size for the majority of people. It's not so crazy big, but it's also like big enough to where you can notice it in your face, because even this one is a little bit small and you wouldn't really notice it, I guess, from afar. But I personally like that look, and it's just a plain steel ring, so it's nothing fancy. I'm trying to see if I can find something that's actually like jeweled but is small enough for what I'm looking for, because I do want to try that look, but a lot of the jewelry that I see they look a little bit bigger, and I'm afraid of having it just be too much in my face. So we're gonna see about that, but right now it's just a plain steel curved barbell at 1/4 of an inch. Sorry, brain fart. So other than that, I have nothing else in my face, and then we can move on to my ears. So let's start with this one because I don't have a lot in here. I have 2 Helix piercings up here, which are standard. A lot of people call them cartilage piercings, but pretty much all of your ear up here is cartilage. So these are called Helix piercings. The pain on these is actually not that bad. I would say a 3 or a 4 out of 10. The main thing with these that I noticed is just placement on your ear, is that when you sleep, if you do sleep on the side that you get done, they do tend to get sore very easy, just because they are on the outer portion of your ear, and that hits the pillow, and just pressing against your head and pressing against the pillow, it can make them sore. But healing for these is not too bad if you don't obviously sleep on that side or irritate it too much. Just the one thing too, if you have longer hair, it does catch on some of these a lot, so just be wary of that. And then the other one that I have in here, hopefully you guys can see, is my Rook. Now this one didn't hurt for me like at all for some reason. I would probably say this one was maybe like a 4 out of 10. It really wasn't bad for me. I don't know why, because my Daith, which is a similar style piercing, hurt a lot. But this one really didn't hurt that bad. The healing for this actually was a lot easier than most of my piercings, just because it's in an area that it's not gonna hit or catch on anything. So it's really like, it's not problematic in the sense where you don't have to baby it too much, and because it's out of the way, honestly, just cleaning it like normal and just leaving it alone, you're gonna have no issues with it. So personally for me, I felt like this was one of the easiest ones to get, just because of the placement and everything in my ear. And then the next one is my Snug, and this one is still kind of new. It's only a few months old. This one, the pain wasn't so bad. It was mainly the soreness, like for the first, I would say like 2 weeks after I got it done. The soreness was ridiculous, and then the swelling was like immense. Like the swelling for this part of my ear was like so crazy that I had to take a lot of Advil for the first few weeks just to make sure that it didn't swell and kind of put pressure on the bar. If you know, like if you've ever gotten your ear pierced and you notice that you swell a lot, I would say either get a longer bar than what you would initially assume that you would need, or also take something that will help with swelling, put ice on it, something that is just going to help reduce the swelling. Because the thing with swelling is that at first it's not going to hurt, but if you swell too much for too long, it puts too much pressure on the actual piercing, and then it can cause a lot more problems. I can mention that more when I talk about my industrial, because I did have a problem with that. But for this, I would say the major issue to look out for is swelling. At least for me, it doesn't really catch on much except for the outer part. You might catch that on your hair if you have longer hair. Sleeping, again, it's probably not the best to sleep on that side if you get done. But the pain for this, I would say, was probably like a 5 out of 6. It really wasn't horrible, but it obviously wasn't one of my easier piercings, just because it is a pretty tough pierce of cartilage that it goes through. And so after that, we can move on to this ear, and I have a lot in this, so hopefully you guys will know which ones I'm talking about. So to start off, I have this one right here, which hopefully you can see. So this one right here is kind of similar to just like a helix piercing. I don't know if there would be a different name for this if it's around this area of your ear, but it's just the outer portion of your ear. I got this just to kind of fill up my ear a little bit when I didn't have a lot going on. I wanted to just have a few like little things here and there to kind of make it look a little bit fuller. But that really, pain for that wasn't bad. Healing was the same as the helix. It really is an easy piercing to get in my opinion. And then I have my industrial, which is this bar right up here. Now pain for this, the first one didn't hurt that bad at all. I would say it was probably like a 2 out of 10. The second one was probably, I would say, a 4 or a 5 out of 10, just because your ear is already sore, your body's already sending like blood and everything to that area just because it already had trauma from the first piercing. So the second one hurt a little bit more, but it definitely wasn't bad. The issue that I had with my industrial was swelling, and I know a lot of people have issues with, oops, sorry if you can hear the people in the hallway. I know a lot of people have issues with their industrials. I would say recommendation, at least is what I did and what my piercer recommended, was I actually had 2 separate barbells put in so that it wasn't just one long bar. That helped to kind of alleviate any pressure that any swelling or just like sleeping on it or anything would create. So I would say if you're having issues with your industrial, definitely try 2 separate barbells. That will help you heal it up a little bit better and a lot easier. So for me, that wasn't so bad in healing once I got the 2 separate ones, but in the beginning I had a lot of swelling and it was very sore and very irritated for a while, but after that I really had no problems with it, and to this day I don't have any issues with it. So for me it's not that problematic now, but in the beginning, yes, definitely. And then other than that, I have my Tragus, which is this little thing right here. I am having an issue with that one right now. I don't know why personally. The issue for me, I don't think it's swelling at all. I think it's just irritated by a few things. I do know that the ball in the back fell out, so I was having issues trying to get it back in and like being able to see and screw the ball back on. So I know it got irritated from that. I'm gonna watch it a little bit, so it is still kind of new. If anything happens, I will give you guys an update, but other than that, so far I haven't had too much issues with healing. It doesn't hurt or anything. It's not sore. It's not red. I think it's just a little bit irritated from being messed with a lot. But this one especially, just be careful with catching it on your ear, just because it, or on your hair rather, just because it is kind of sticking out a little bit. It's easy to catch it on things, so just be wary of that. If you wear like hoods, just try to kind of watch for it, because I know my hood can catch on it sometimes, so just be careful of that. I wouldn't recommend wearing headphones or anything in the beginning, especially just because it's not really sanitary first off, but then also you can put a lot of pressure on the earring with the headphones in there, so just be wary of that. I can't put headphones in there even before I got that done just because of my dates, so that's not an issue for me, but just be wary of that if you don't have that problem. The other ones that I have in here are this middle dot right here is actually my conch piercing. So that just goes straight through to the back of your ear. Pain for that, to be honest, was not that bad. I thought it was gonna suck because it goes like through a very thick piece of cartilage. I would say that the pain on that was probably like a 4 or 5. The tragus was like a 2. It really wasn't bad at all, but the conch was probably like a 4 or 5. The main issue with that one again was just soreness for the first few days, just because it goes through a pretty thick piece of cartilage, so obviously your ear is going to be sore for a little bit, but if you take a few Tylenol or something, that will go away really quick. Just be careful in the back to make sure that the back is dry, and then that your hair doesn't catch on the back part, because the inner portion, like in the front, you're not going to have any issues with that because it is kind of hidden inside your ear, but in the back you can catch it on things, so just be wary of that if you're interested in getting it. And then the last one that I have is my date. So I have actually, this is actually my septum ring that I originally got pierced with. I put this in here because I had a curved barbell, so just like a banana bar. And I had that in there originally when I got my conch pierced because I wanted to kind of, I had a hoop in there, so I wanted to make space for my conch to be done. So she put in a barbell, but I think just because of where it is in my ear shape and how small it is, it was really hard to get the balls tight enough, and I noticed that one of the balls actually got loose and fell out. So I took out the bar because I could not for the life of me get the ball back onto the barbell. So I switched it to this because this was the only ring that I had that I could actually screw the ball on without any problems. But I kind of like the look, to be honest, so I'm probably going to keep it. It's just like a curved horseshoe barbell, so it's nothing fancy, but I'm not positive on the sizing of this one just because it was the bar that I got pierced with for my septum. So yeah, that's pretty much it as far as my piercings go. I definitely have plans to get more in the future. I don't know specifically right now which ones that I would want. As far as right now, I'm just trying to heal up the ones that I have. My Tragus and my Conch are still pretty new. They're only about a month or two old, so they're still healing and still going through the initial like irritated stage and getting used to having them there. So I'm gonna wait a little bit till I get something new, but I definitely have plans in the future. If you have any recommendations for some cool things to get done, just let me know, because to be honest, I'm very impulsive when it comes to these things. Like my tattoo on my ankle, we decided to get that done actually on the walk to the shop when I was going with my roommate to get something that she wanted done. And then a lot of my piercings, it was like I'm bored and I want something to do, so just give me some ideas on some things to get. Mainly the two things that I try to stay away from are like what would you call it, like surface bar piercing. So anything that's going to be like a surface bar, I'm really not a fan of them in general. And then also it's away from like oral type piercings. I don't want to deal with that right now. So any recommendations that are not of these, like those two types, definitely let me know, just because I kind of am running out of ideas of what to get. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope it wasn't too long and too boring. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed it, definitely thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet. I will have all of my social networks linked off below. Also anything that I mentioned, like tattoo shops, websites to like the meanings behind some of my tattoos, I'll leave all of that in the bottom bar so you guys can go check that out. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed again, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye everybody.